Ryan Jarrell here for MMA News, and I'm excited to have my next guest on the show. He'll be fighting Shayilan Nuerdanbieke next on February the 10th at UFC Vegas 86. And of course, is the Hurricane himself, Hyder Amil. Hyder, how you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm good, man, but I can't be as good as you must be feeling right now to, make that UFC debut. It's getting closer and closer. What's the excitement level like?
I'm very excited to make my debut, although I feel like I've already fought in the UFC, considering I was on the Contender show. I'm fighting in the same place last time, so I feel like I'm having my second UFC fight, but on paper it is my debut fight, so I'm pretty excited about that.
Were you disappointed when you found out you were going to be fighting at the Apex? There's so many big UFC pay-per-view cards, coming up here in early 2024. Were you kind of hoping it was going to be on one of those ones instead?
Oh, absolutely. And you know what? I like the crowd because it's just way more fun when you win than when there's a crowd there. But it is my UFC debut. I just fought there, but February 10th will be 5 months, 4 or 5 months since I've last fought. So it felt comfortable there. So it should be even more comfortable the second time around. So that's the good part about it. And I use this motivation honestly because I want to make a big splash and be like, hey man, we got to get this guy on a bigger card because he's exciting and he brings the show.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. I've been fortunate enough to interview a number of guys and girls that have fought at Contender Series, and I find it fascinating. Hearing what you guys have to say, whether you win or lose. Post fight, if you felt those, octagon nerves. You hear people talk about it's different fighting in the UFC for the first time because it's the biggest promotion in the world. You have all these eyeballs on you. Did you feel that at all when you were making the walk or pre-fight?
It was a year since I last fought that last one. I honestly like to feel a little nervous. I feel it wakes me up. I'm not too comfortable, but I don't really let it overwhelm me like that. I I was the reason why the Contender was a little more nerve-wracking is because even when you win, they might not accept you.
Right.
At least with this fight, I win, I get that bonus, you know what I'm saying?
For sure, understandable there. Were you pleased with your performance at Contender Series? I saw you said post fight you weren't really sure if you were going to get the contract or not. Looking back at it, how do you feel like you did?
Honestly, it was just a wrestle fest. My fights before that were super exciting. Every time the arena exploded, I think all my fights were actually pretty much like that. It was pretty very exciting and fun. If I don't finish the guy, I was put in a bad position. I come back, I knock him out, and but that fight just was just a wrestle fest. I think I dropped him in the first round or something like that, and all he wanted to do was shoot on me nonstop. So it was grueling, it was tiring, but what Dana said after that he got the goosebumps and is watching the video, he seemed very into the fight. It was just a crazy, crazy pace. Like that pace was insanity and mostly wrestling exchanges. Someone told me I think we set the Contender Series. I think he did a takedown attempts and I had the most takedowns defended in the Contender.
Yeah.
So it was also it was good for me to go against a high level wrestler, being, I majority strike for most of my fights. I am an MMA fighter, don't get me wrong, but it was a good confidence builder to be able to wrestle for 3 5s nonstop at a crazy pace against a good wrestler and get that kind of win.
Well, it's a great fight, man. I can't wait to see you back in the octagon again next February 10th. Can't get here soon enough. When I was doing my research here to prepare for this interview, I saw a video on you on YouTube. It talked a little bit about your upbringing. You're from the Philippines. Is it Cebu City? Am I saying that correct?
Yeah, Cebu City.
I wanted to ask you, obviously, you've got that fighter, makeup in you. You're a great, well-rounded fighter, but you talked a little bit about, growing up, very poor and the danger that you had to experience growing up there. Do you feel like that molded you into more of a fighter, or did you feel like you always had that like fighter spirit inside you?
I think I was born to be I think I was I'm an artist naturally because I can do art and stuff like that. I always felt like if it wasn't for the struggles in my life, I probably wouldn't really be fighting. I feel like I was always like a pretty nice kid, but because of being different, having, growing up that last house at the end of a slum, my dad used to beat me like crazy bad, like abuse a lot. I have a few other stories. I don't want to get too long with it that really makes someone into a kind of fighter, making them have like maybe of a dark side. But me having to um overcome these negative emotions and having to come to the US and having to assimilate and having to deal with bullies, deal with my family stuff, deal with, because my dad abandoned me. He wasn't around. So I had to deal with my mom's boyfriends and my sisters, the people around. So, and my own shit, So I felt like life molded me into becoming a fighter, to not having fear, to stand up for those I love, to and to have a place where I could put my negative emotions, because growing up, I had a lot of anger from being poor, from being beaten up, from being abused. Don't get me wrong, I've had those ass beatings where I deserve those ass beatings, but when you're 4 or 5 and 6, there's nothing you can do to be deserving of an ass beating as bad as I was.
Mm.
And so yeah, I think those instances, coupled with other crazy stories in my life, really molded me into becoming a fighter.
Yeah, man. I appreciate you diving into that a little bit. You say you're an artist, like you draw?
Yes.
Okay. You ever seen the show Archer?
No, I haven't.
It's on FX. When you have some time, you should look it up. One of my best friends, I was a groomsman in his wedding, is the lead artist for that show, Archer. So he's the one that draws all the comics, all the designs for the characters. He lived in Atlanta, Georgia. He's back on the East Coast, the Northeast Coast, where I'm at now. But he's one of the best in the world. His name's Chad Hurd. You should definitely look up Archer and look at some of his stuff. You might like it.
I definitely will. I should check that out. I've heard of it. I definitely heard of it.
Yeah.
Well, I'll definitely check that out. Art is very similar to martial arts, and that's why I was always like an athlete. Always love art, and art was also my escape as well. And it was just something I was good at. I have like two murals here in the Bay Area, and I was like the best artist, middle school and high school type of deal. But some people knew me for art, and a lot of people knew me for fighting. So that's how I grew up.
Things are going well for you now, my man. Tell me what camp has been like in Cali. I see you got, Gilbert Melendez around you, one of the best to do it, man. How has camp been thus far?
Camp's been good. I went down to Extreme Code Tours a couple weeks ago. So I stayed there for a couple of weeks. Got some sparring training with Jake Shields as well. That's one of my original coaches. Him and Gil are like brothers. So got down over there, did a lot of good sparring and training, and visited a PI, which is super cool. And met some names over there. Came back here. I cross train at different gyms here in the Bay Area, but El Nino is my home gym. And yeah, so we just been getting after it. Super sore, it's Friday towards the end of my week. I'm freaking burnt out. I got one more day tomorrow, but it's gotta make it one more day and then I get to rest a little bit.
Get a little downtime, man. Do you ever work with the
Yeah.
Diaz brothers much?
Yeah, I usually go down there, especially if I'm finding someone who's a similar body type or whatever, or they need someone to come box. Last camp I helped Chris Sevilla get ready for Jeremy Stevens.
Mm-hmm.
So Jeremy Stevens and I are like the same size, same height, and everything. So it was a perfect. Except I'm better than Jeremy Stevens. That's just my opinion, but especially in boxing. So yeah, but I usually like to go down there, train with Nate and his guys. Yeah, it's always a good time.
Yeah, no doubt. A big fan of the Scrap Pack, man. Being from the Bay Area, I love sports. Basketball, football. I love it right up there equally with MMA. Are you a Warriors Niners fan?
Definitely a Warriors and Niners fan.
All right. Tell me, well, I think the 49ers, they could win it all this year. Realistically, what do you think we're going to see? What's your Super Bowl prediction?
Man, I'm fighting on Super Bowl weekend in Vegas. Man, Niners better come back and win. They just lost to the Ravens. Purdy did not. do too well, but it's okay. I believe they're gonna make a little bounce back, and I'm hoping to see them in the Super Bowl. It'd be so exciting for me to smash this guy, and the next day, hopefully, go to Super Bowl. If not, at least it'd be a great fun weekend in Vegas. I was with Gary Payton Jr. a couple months ago. I was hanging out with him, and he's excited about the fight and fighting, and so I can't help but be a Warriors fan, especially if I know one of them,
Yeah, no,
especially if they're from the Bay.
no doubt, man. If you had to pick the MVP for the season here, would you give it to CMC or Purdy?
Oh my God, that's a hard one. I mean, after Purdy's last game with the four interceptions, I don't know, but I would just have to say McCaffrey, but it
Okay.
might change. Got a few more games.
One last non MMA related question here: Is the Warriors dynasty done? Are they? Or can they come back from this when they get Draymond, or is it done?
I think they can come back. Always believe in my Bay Area teams.
All right, man, they've been so much fun to watch. I hope that they can make another run. It's fun watching them compete, man. Let's talk about UFC Vegas 86, shall we? February the 10th. Who will you have in your corners come fight night?
I'm most likely gonna have, well, Gilbert's always a I'm gonna say in my corner, and then my Muay Thai and boxing coach. But it just depends on their schedule. Sometimes they might have my other coach is a fireman, so you might have to work. So, but most likely those three.
And fights at featherweight. What is that cut like for you? How heavy do you typically get?
I don't get too heavy. I cut from like 165, something like that. Um, so I mean, it's cutting weight sucks, but I know a few other people who cut, and they cut like from 175, 180. I know people who cut from 185.
Hmm.
So it sucks, but it's not too crazy.
I know, like if you go to the PI, they have you do all these different tests, and they can tell you if you can make a smaller weight class. Have you done that? Would you ever consider fighting at bantamweight here in the UFC?
I've tried. I did a 140 catch weight in Bellator, and I'm telling you, that was the worst performance I ever had. I was like chinny. I was dieting for so long. It was just rough. It was hard, and I just did not feel strong and explosive. And that weight cut was hell.
Hmm.
Again, I could have a better nutritionist and all that, but I told myself if I'm gonna make this cut, I'm not gonna do UFC. I'm not gonna fight MMA. It's just if every time I have to do that, it would be just too much for my body. I think my kidneys might fail. But yeah, so I did
145 it
that.
is.
Yeah, I got to 137, and it was at 140, but the scale was off. So I got to 137, so 1 pound above the weight allowance of 135. And my God, I've never felt like so bad in my life. So
Yeah, I don't know. Excuse me. I don't know how some of you guys do it, man. My former coach, he used to walk around at like 220, and he fought at 155, which is crazy. I don't know if you remember Marcus Davis. He actually fought Nate Diaz way back in the day.
yeah, the Irish hand grenade guy.
That's right. That's exactly right.
That
Yeah.
guy was one of my favorite fighters. Dude. I had no idea he was that big. Wow.
Yeah. Oh, he's a monster, man. Yeah, absolute monster. He's close to 50 now, but he can still do it. He's shredded.
Mhm.
Shayilan Nuerdanbieke, let's talk about your opponent. And he's only 29 years old, and he's 39-11. This guy has a ton of tape. You can see whatever you want from him. What do you
Yeah,
think about his style and what he brings to the table?
you can't disregard someone with 50 fights. I think in China, where the hell he's from, he the competition is not as hard. You can do 20 of those fights there. Not to downplay how tough this guy is, because he's Kazakh. Those Kazakh guys are very physically and mentally strong. They have a really good background in wrestling. If you look at Shavkat, he's Kazakh. I know some Kazakh boys. They're all some tough. They got that Mongolian blood or something. Uh, he's a power wrestler, power striker. I feel like he is um basic in the things he does. I think he has a lot of physical tools he brings to the table, a good wrestling base, and has some good power. But I feel like my strengths work into his weakness. I got really good takedown defense. I got good power, and he got knocked out his last fight, and I'm going to do that again.
Yeah, you just feel like you're going to be able to stuff takedowns, keep it where you want it on the feet, and ultimately TKO. And what round do you see it happening in?
Maybe second or third. I feel like he's a tough guy. I think you need to wear him out a little bit. It might come sooner, it might come later. I just feel like I just feel like I'm just way better than him, and I don't be surprised if I out wrestle him. I out grappled the grappler in my last fight, and that guy was a really good wrestler. So he has to know that he has to be in for a fight with me because I bring it, and I don't give a fuck.
Do you think when he feels your power on the feet, he's just going to be shooting for takedowns, or do you feel like that's what his game plan is going to be right from the jump?
I think he's gonna test the stand up. I think he's gonna mix up MMA, especially if he's smart. He's gonna mix up MMA. He's gonna try to grind me out like everyone tries to do. Tries to wear me up against the fence and hold me down. But it ends. I feel like it ends two ways. It ends. I'm gonna wear him out. I'm gonna catch him coming in. I'm gonna knock him out or TKO him. Or we go to decision and he's just dead trying to take me down or hold me or something. And it ends like my last fight, like me on top and him just worn out.
Can't wait to see it, man. Again, February the 10th, UFC Vegas 86. The Hurricane Hyder Amil will be back in action. Pleasure interviewing you for the first time, man. I'm looking forward to, talking to you again, hopefully down the line. Before we do sign off here today, I want to give you the floor. If there's anything you want to plug, anyone you want to thank, the floor is yours.
First off, I want to thank you for having me on your podcast. I really appreciate shedding some light into my fight. And just stay tuned because this is just going to be the first of many of really exciting fights. That's just what I come to bring to the table. Follow me at Hurricane 415. Again, Hurricane 415, first Bay Area fighter and the only person from the Philippines in the UFC right now.